Hello once again, watchers of Good Anime. My name is Nick Pell, and this is my review of the Ancient Magus Bride. Now right away off the bat, I just want to say I will be going over all 24 episodes of the current series of this show, so if you have not watched the anime, or you plan on watching it, or you're in the middle of it, or something of that sort, and you do not want spoilers, probably stop watching now, go finish the show, come back, and we can discuss it then. Now the Ancient Magus Bride, it's a show which I wasn't really sure what I was jumping into when I first started it. It's very different from most of the other animes that I've been watching recently. It's not really an action-packed fighter like Naruto or My Hero Academia or even Kill la Kill, and it's not really this big comedy of sorts like Assassination Classroom was. It has much more of a dramatic feel to it in that, like I said, it doesn't have big action set pieces, it doesn't have large amounts of comedy. It has lots of comedy in there, but it's not the main focus of the show. And so I didn't really know what I was getting into, but let's talk about what I thought of the Ancient Magus Bride. Right off the bat, we are introduced to our main protagonist of the show, Chise, and she is this redheaded girl. She just doesn't really care about her life anymore. She's had this very tragic past and has basically come up with the idea that nobody really wants her, and so she just decides to basically sell herself at this auction, and she ends up being bought by this creature with a skull for a head, who buys her for like $5 million or something, and his name is Ilias, and he basically takes her, makes her his apprentice as like a mage, and tells her that you're also going to eventually be my bride. And she's just honestly dumbstruck by all this, but at the same time, in the first couple episodes, you just see her as somebody who has just had very little in her life, had basically nobody really care for her since she was a very young child, and just seeing all these things which she now has. She has this place to call home, she has people who actually care about her, and she has like her own room and things which we all would normally take for granted, but she has all these things, and on top of that she's introduced to this world of creatures and magic and things which she never really understood or knew that existed beyond what she's seen. And one of the reasons which I really liked her character is because she goes from this person who just has no real interest in her own life. She doesn't really care about her own survival. She just initially went into this servitude thinking that's all she was going to be. It's just the servant, treated like crap, and eventually probably killed for something. But then you just see her over the course of the 24 episodes begin to build up her confidence and start to face her fears, face her past, and you just get to see this whole new person kind of rise up like a phoenix out of the ashes, and it just becomes this really cool transformation that you get to see play out over the course of the 24 episodes. And it just makes her easily one of my favorite characters, because even differences between the beginning and the end in regards to how she treats Ilias, which I'll talk about more in a moment, but towards the beginning he basically had to tell her, you are mine now, so like stand tall and raise your head up and look forward, and basically be proud and confident in yourself. And then towards the end she's even talking back to him and rebuking him, and just you see this totally different personality take place in her throughout the course of the show. It's just really fascinating to see play out. And then her relationship with Ilias is something which is really interesting to see play out as well, because like I said initially, he bought her for a very large sum of money, and he bought her primarily because she is a very rare type of human known as a Sleighbeggy, and they're a rare type of person who is able to absorb large amounts of magic as well as produce large amounts of magic. But as a result of that, their bodies are very fragile, and it ends up costing them their life, and they live much shorter lives than the average person naturally. So one of the reasons that Ilias buys her is because he wants to try to make it so that she is able to be relieved of this curse per se, and make it so that she's able to live out a longer life. And so that's one of the more subplots of the show. It's kind of interesting to see his motivations and things of that sort in regards to her. You also get to see their relationship begin to get closer as the show goes on. It reminded me a lot of Beauty and the Beast to an extent, just because we have this guy who you would normally be petrified of if you saw in real life, because he looks like the Grim Reaper, like some hideous creature like out of Bleach or something. And you have this fragile girl who's, I think, 16 years old in the show, and she's just not scared whatsoever. And he just assumes that she's going to be afraid, and they just start to develop this bond together. It becomes kind of a friendship and then more of like a parental bond of sorts. And you never really get to see any sort of romantic side to it, which is why I was a little bit confused in regards to the title Ancient Magus Bride. But I mean, romance and relationships take all different types of forms, so by the end of the show, by the end of the last episode, you do kind of see it move more in that direction, even if it's more of a symbolic meaning, if anything. But Ilias, even as a character, is someone who is kind of tough to like all the time, because while he is very ignorant in regards to kind of human emotion and human desires and things of that sort, it is kind of tough to root for him, especially a little bit towards the end when he sees that Chise is bound by this dragon curse which she comes upon. And so the only way that he sees to save her is by sacrificing the life of this young girl named Stella in her place. And once Chise becomes aware of that, she is just pissed at him and just wants nothing more to do with him. And you can really not... You understand where Ilias is coming from to that regard, because he just sees this as a way to save the person that he cares about. But at the same time, it's just a route that you would never really want to go that far to do it, and I don't think anyone generally would want that to be the way that they're saved. There are also two more minor characters which are part of the main four cast members that we see for the most part. We have Root. I think that's how you say his name. It was kind of tough for me to make it out. But he is a person who is able to transform into both a human as well as a dog. And he eventually becomes Chise's follower, or basically someone who's bound to her for the rest of her life. If she dies, he dies. And so you can kind of use him as a way to figure out how close to death she actually is at certain times, if she gets attacked or injured or something of that sort. And then you also have the servant of the house, who is someone who serves Ilias and through him Chise, and she is someone who was originally a banshee, and now she is serving Ilias in his home. And she has two different names, I think, because she's called two different things throughout the show. Towards the beginning and at the very end, her name is referred to as Silver. But then throughout most of the show, it's Silky, so I'm not really sure what her actual name is supposed to be, but it's referenced in two different ways, and I didn't really grasp the huge distinction. But she is, like I said, a servant of the house. She doesn't really say a whole lot, but you can tell that she's very affectionate about Chise and the people that she serves, because once they're gone in Fairy World for a couple days, in Fairy World time, it ends up being months in the real world. And you see how lonely she ends up becoming and just how happy she is once they return. Another thing which I really did appreciate about the show is that we got to see backstories for the majority of the main characters on this show. We get to see Chise's backstory. That's the primary one that we see play out throughout the course of the show. We get kind of hints about it here and there, but you do get to get a very good sense of her backstory by the end of the 24 episodes. We also get to see Ilias, we get to see Ruth, and we get to see Silky Silver, as well as Joseph, the main antagonist, and then some other more side characters who we don't see in all the episodes. So I was really liking that we got to see those backstories play out, because it really fleshed out more of the side characters, and it was just more information than I was actually expecting the show to give us. And then easily the best part of the show, aside from the characters, is just the sense of this magical world which the creators have been able to illustrate so magnificently well. Because on top of just the magic and the use of it in nature and the relying on nature to perform a lot of these spells and things, you get to see this like world of mystical creatures and dragons and things of that sort. Usually the land of dragons and the dragon animations and things like that, that was usually my favorite aspect of the show, because that's where it just seemed like you were like in Harry Potter or like some other magical realm, and it was just a really cool thing to see play out throughout the course of the show. The only real main negative that I have of the show is that I really wish we could have seen more magical encounters, because we have Chise as well as Ilias using magic from time to time, but it's very far and few between, it seemed like, aside from just kind of everyday general tasks. So I would have just liked to see her improvement throughout the course of the show in regards to her magical abilities, or unlocking certain potential skills which she wasn't aware that she had, or things of that sort. And so maybe if they get a season 2, it'll focus more on those aspects because she's a mage's apprentice, so I just kind of assumed that there'd be a lot more focus on magic itself in regards to incantations and things of that sort. And then just other smaller things which I had minor issues with. Towards the last couple episodes of the show, apparently took a page out of Naruto's book where you can basically just swap eyeballs with anyone without any sort of surgical procedure or issues, really, and that's just weird. I think so yeah, I don't know why that's a thing in anime apparently, but it was just a weird thing to see. I thought in a show placed like in reality to an extent, it's not like this magical, well, it's a magical world, but it's not like the world of like Naruto where they have like superpowers essentially. And then I just would have liked to see a little bit more information about Chise's father and brother, because in her past, her father took her younger brother with him and just left out of the blue one day when she was very, very young, and that's what kind of resulted in her mother kind of having her breakdown and eventual suicide. And so I would have liked to see just kind of what ended up happening to them. Did they end up getting killed somehow? Did they get recruited into some sort of cult or order, or are they just living out some sort of peaceful life in some random country? I just kind of want to see more about that. And again, if we get season 2, I feel like that could be more of a focus, or that could come up somehow within the plot line. In regards to the ending, I thought it was fine for the most part. I thought it did serve as a good season 1 finale finisher, because it kind of wrapped up the main antagonists that we'd seen here and there throughout the course of the 24 episodes. And then we also kind of got the cherry on top with Chise becoming Elias's actual bride, because she got into like the wedding outfit and they had kind of their mini ceremony of sorts. And so I guess she's actually technically his wife now, which is whatever. But in regards to Joseph and his other name, which I'm not going to try to pronounce, I thought he was fine as an antagonist. He didn't really do a whole lot for me. He didn't really stand out all that much. He was a very creepy person, and once you kind of got his backstory, you kind of felt more sorry for him as a character. But I kind of wish more had been done with him and not necessarily made him such a great character, at least. So guys, overall, I thought that the Ancient Magus Bride, it's actually quite good as a show. It's not going to have a lot of action for you, and it does have a lot of comedic moments, like I said earlier, and so there are parts which had me laughing. It also has this change in animation which makes it like more cartoony to an extent at certain times, which really elevates humor at certain parts, because you can kind of just see characters' expressions a little bit more interestingly, and it just kind of elevates the humor, I thought. And so I also appreciate that part of it. And so it's just going to be more of a drama. It doesn't have a lot of magical spells or battles or things of that sort, which I was kind of hoping that it would. That said, the characters are really, really interesting to see explored, and see their character development and growth and things of that sort, as well as seeing their backstories and just this magical world that the creators have just made. And it just is something which I'd love to see come back in a second season. As far as I could tell in my research after finishing the show, the manga is still going on, so I would presume that we would get a second season, because I think the show is done pretty well. And so I don't know if it'll be like later this year or next year or something of that sort, or maybe it'll be kind of like an Attack on Titan situation where they weren't expecting it to be as big of a hit as maybe it is. I don't think it's quite at the level of Attack on Titan, but it could end up being a few years if they weren't expecting it to draw a lot of people in and win the awards that it did. So guys, those are my thoughts on the Ancient Magus Bride. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Did you like it as much as I did? Did you hate it more than I did? Let me know your favorite characters, scenes, battles, things of that sort in the comments down below. I'd love to discuss the show with you. Be sure to like, favorite, comment, and subscribe once again if you so choose. I appreciate it immensely. And as always, my people, my name is Nick Pell, and once again, keep watching.